moralizing to see the death of Mahmud in this manner. And so the Sahaba for 10 days were battling this one fortress, An-Na'im, and when they went to sleep that night, and the Prophet after Salat al-Isha, he made an announcement. He said that tomorrow at Salat al-Fajr, I will hand the banner to someone whom Allah and His Messenger love. And Allah will grant us victory at His hands. So he made a prediction that tomorrow morning I will hand the flag to someone whom Allah and His Messenger love. And he will be the one at his hands we will have victory. And Umar ibn al-Khattab said, never in my life did I wish to become a leader like I did on that night. That was the one night of my life I desired to be a leader more than any other night, because this is a great victory for Islam. And in the morning, the Prophet prayed Fajr, everybody's excited. He turned around and he said, Ayna Ali ibn Abi Talib? Where is Ali ibn Abi Talib? And so they said, he has some problem with the eyes and he cannot open his eyes, so he has remained in his tent. He had some infection of the eyes. He's remaining in his tent. So the Prophet said, bring him to me. And so when Ali ibn Abi Talib came, the Prophet spat into his eyes and he became cured. And he then handed the raya or the banner to Ali ibn Abi Talib. And he said to Ali ibn Abi Talib, Imdi Bismillah, go forth and in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keep on going and do not turn back. In other words, be firm, be resolute, and you will be the victor. And this was a great blessing for Ali ibn Abi Talib. It is a great blessing for Ali ibn Abi Talib that he was told by the Prophet to be the commander at whose hands the victory would take place. And he came forth with the banner, and then he paused and he wanted to ask a question. But the Prophet had told him, go forth and don't turn back. And he wanted to ask a question. So he paused where he was, and instead of turning around, because that would have been turning back, he shouted at the top of his lungs, Ya Rasulullah, what conditions should I give them when I get there? He doesn't want to turn around because that would be disobeying. Because the Prophet said, go forth in the name of Allah and do not turn back. And so he shouts out, what are the conditions I should be placing upon them? And so the Prophet ﷺ said, fight them until they testify La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. If they do so, then their lives and their properties are protected from you and me, and their affair is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For by Allah, if Allah guides through you even one person, then it is better than $1 million, a herd of camels. We have translated this $1 million. A whole herd of camels, it is better for you than one person be guided to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this shows us that the ultimate goal of these types of expeditions is not killing, nor is it Islamic land and conquest. It is inviting others to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is the Prophet telling Ali ibn Abi Talib at the time when, after 10 days of fighting against An-Na'im and fighting against this tribe, what does he tell Ali ibn Abi Talib? Call them to La ilaha illallah before you begin fighting. And if they agree, then stop fighting. And their property is theirs, and their money is theirs. Because by Allah, if one person is guided to Islam through you, that is better than a whole herd of camels. And this clearly illustrates the Islamic psychology behind these expeditions and conquests. What was it? Money, wealth, fame, fortune, nothing. It was da'wah, inviting people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Ali ibn Abi Talib went with a contingent, and the chieftain of this fortress, his name was Mirhab. And whatever happened on that day, we don't know the details, other than Mirhab felt bold enough to challenge the Muslims to a duel. And so Mirhab went out of the fortress, and he was known to be a ferocious warrior. And firstly, Amir ibn al-Aqwa, one of the Ansar, took on the challenge, but Mirhab managed to cut him off, and Amir died a shaheed in the battle. And the next person to take up was Ali himself. Even though, generally speaking, even though he's the leader, he should not technically be the one doing this, but he wanted to take charge. And so Ali ibn Abi Talib took on Mirhab in the duel before the battle, and he managed to get rid of him. He managed to kill Mirhab. And this was one of the biggest and the first victories for the Muslims, and a huge demoralization factor for the tribe, because this was like the first major loss of Khaybar. The first major issue of Khaybar, that their chieftain dies, and eventually the people came out to actually fight the Muslims, and they fought a severe fighting. That's what's going to happen when you're trapped into a wall, you're trapped into a fortress, but the Muslims eventually overcame. It was during this expedition where the famous story takes place that all of us have heard when we were children, and it is a story mentioned in a number of books of Seerah, that one of the commanders of the tribe, of the Yahudi tribe, he managed to knock out the shield of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Ali was left defenseless. And he then went to the wall of the fortress. And the wall of the fortress we all have seen in movies. These are massive structures. This is not something you pick up with one hand. He went to the wall of the fortress and unhinged it, and he used that entire wall, the entire door, the entire door of the fortress. He used that door as a shield for the remainder of the battle. And then when the battle was over, he threw it aside, and Abu Rafi', the narrator, he says, after that incident, 7 of us, we looked at that door and we tried to pick it up, but we were not able to pick it up. 7 of us, we tried to pick up that door, we were not able to pick it up. And there is no doubt this is a karama, this is a mini miracle that was given to Ali ibn Abi Talib. And we are the true followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib. We give him every credit where it is due, and we do not be miserly or stingy in giving him any credit that Allah and His Messenger have given him. Ali ibn Abi Talib was a man who Allah loved and whom the Messenger loved, and he loved Allah and he loved the Messenger, and he was of the greatest of the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhu wa ala alil bayti ajma'in. So Ali ibn Abi